Welcome to Therapy Tech and Takeout, where humor meets healing with bite-sized chunks of wisdom and techie tips. I'm Toni Teixeira. I am a therapist, entrepreneur, recovering overthinker, and a bit of an ethics nerd.
And I'm Jackie Toale, an entrepreneur, unapologetic spreadsheet addict, and low-rent stand-up comedian. How you doing, Toni? How's your week? What you vibing on this week?
I'm doing good. Vibing snow, and more
Right?
snow in my area, in my neck of the woods. We probably got about a foot of snow here I'm in central New Jersey, and it comes with that like magical feeling when you first watch it come down, and then the fear of, oh my gosh, I gotta, shovel all of this. My very dear, loving husband did all the heavy lifting on that. But really, it's really, really cold, and I feel like my life is figuring out what to wear these days, how to dress warm enough. Or how about you? What's happening in
Yeah.
your neck of the woods?
It's a little chilly here, but nothing obviously like what y'all are dealing with up there. Florida kind of luckily avoided the brunt of the storm part of it, at least. We've got the cold now, but yeah, geez, I am so excited. I have house guests this week. My daughter's girlfriend from up in Tennessee was down, and I happened to be volunteering at one of the local dog shelters. I came across a dog that I thought would be like such a good puppy for them. And so she came over and adopted it. And so they're staying with us until they head back up to their home in Tennessee. So
That's
I'm really
awesome.
excited about that too.
You volunteer?
Yeah, I walk dogs at one
Nice.
of the shelters in my area called Nate's. It's really cool. So yeah, I like doing that.
That's really cool. I learn something new about you all the time.
Absolutely. So many dimensions to all of us these days, right?
Right.
And I think that kind of ties in to what we're talking about today, being
Yeah.
sort of this analog January. Had you heard of analog January?
No. This is, thank you for sharing that article with me. It's the first time I heard that term,
Right?
Analog January. Yeah.
Me too. I'd heard of dry January for a while, but analog January seems to be coming sort of from the Gen X culture. Our article today came from an Indian newspaper, I believe. But really it was about sort of using the month of January as a time to kind of like reflect and reset your boundaries with technology. And I
Hmm.
thought that was a really, kind of in the spirit of dry January, right? To like reevaluate
Right.
your relationship to something. I thought that was a pretty cool thing the kids are doing. So I
The
wanted to
kids, the
share.
kids, they're
Yeah.
doing this.
The kids these days and all
Yeah.
their fun stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. We can learn
Well,
from
yeah.
them.
It's interesting. It's kind of like, yeah, the kids kind of start things that end up feeding into the rest of our culture. And I think it's a great thing for anyone to try. When I read the article, I think the focus was really on intentionality. It wasn't like just giving up your devices for the sake of giving them up, but to really having more choice and to choose them intentionally, and to also choose intentionally other things. So I think it was really all about mindfulness.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that there's another current event I heard about. I don't know if I think that the trial just started with, I think it's a teenager who's suing a lot of the large social media companies for creating an addictive platform intentionally for kids.
Oh,
And
okay. I didn't hear about this. Brief me.
we're relying on my like half information, but there's apparently a big lawsuit, and a lot of I think Zuckerberg is scheduled to testify, and a couple other sort of platform owners from big tech are scheduled to testify, and I believe it's a teenager who is suing them, stating injury from the addictive nature of their platform, kind of a la
Mm-hmm.
tobacco or
Yeah.
but I don't know that this is necessarily a class action. I think this is like there's a whole bunch of lawsuits apparently in this realm, but from what
Mm-hmm.
I heard, at least on like the brief little news update snippet I heard about it today, this is a big one and that a lot of people are paying attention to it. So it seemed also kind of in line with this, right? Like there's a potential that these platforms, have by nature,
Yeah.
sort of trying to trigger sort of that addictive response
Yeah. Well,
from us.
going online, people get that dopamine hit.
Hmm.
and getting that over and over again and never getting that initial hit as strongly as you did and like searching and seeking for it. That's kind of like what happens
Right?
with addiction, and that happens with the whole scrolling and getting on social media.
And I
So
think
that's really
intention is
interesting.
such a big part of
Yeah.
being able to break those cycles, right? To be able to like notice those triggers and those things as they come up,
Yeah.
in the extreme, in an addiction standpoint, but just sort of even in our everyday lives when we want to make a change for habits and things like that. I think intentionality and that's where this starts. So I also thought that was really a good place.
The place to intervene is really what's happening right before you're picking up the phone or going to your laptop, to notice and be aware of what's happening inside before you reach, right? Because that habit, that quick behavior, that impulse to do it, something is happening before that,
Hmm.
and we're really not aware of what that is. And that article really talks about also building other parts of your life up,
Yeah, hobbies,
which I really loved, hobbies and going
social.
outside in nature.
Yeah. Yeah, going for that
Being
morning walk, I thought, yeah, it was a great idea.
Yeah, I mean, if we're going to change behavior, we have to create start patterns, like new things to do. When we're only creating stop patterns, stop doing that, everything is a no. We have nothing to say yes to. So what I really liked about that was kind of the insight of creating space instead of thinking about not doing,
Yeah,
getting on your device, creating more space for other things in your life that can feed you, that could also produce more feel good hormones too in your body if you're
absolutely.
doing things that, you love and you bring more mindfulness into, then that impulse also might go down. But I think really what's important, Jackie, is understanding the what's happening before we're doing it and really paying attention to that. I think if we really want to shift and we often talk about this, shifting our relationship
Yeah,
with our devices, with social media, with gaming or whatever, whatever it is
absolutely.
we're doing digitally, virtually, we really have to slow it down and understand what's that about? Why are we reaching for these things?
It's interesting. I think that that's such an important point, and that pause is where the magic happens. But it's hard to kind of like figure out how to work in and like notice that you're there to take it sometimes, and the real challenge. But I think being able to get, even if you catch it after, note it, or and also know that like these are patterns that like aren't new, right? Like, so it's going to take some time to like, become more aware, become more sensitive and reframe, because there was probably a point in time where they served you really well, or they were made to serve,
Hmm.
like they come from a place, of good, right? Hopefully, or even
Hmm.
if it's evolutionary and not in your own life, right? But like, we don't need it right now. We're okay. And I think that that's one of like the things that we've talked about in the past, like sort of how the nervous system gets impacted by all of this constant,
Right.
these like
Right.
short form videos, snip, 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 clip through, pop
Well,
along through the stories and things
yeah.
like that.
And I'm glad you brought that up because our nervous system was never meant to be flooded over and over again. So everything that's happening in the news right now, all the images on a nonstop replay, it is important to be aware of what's happening in the world. This is affecting everyone. And having it fed over and over again every time we see it, it's like our nervous system is saying, we're still in danger. We're still in danger. And it's being really on high alert over and over and over and over again. And that's not really kind of how we're meant to live unless
Right.
we really are living in, kind of in danger where, we're being attacked all the time. But that can really be so troublesome. Walking away really can give your nervous system a chance to reset. I think when there's like so much fear and anxiety about what's happening in the world, we also don't want to push it down. I'm kind of doing a PSA for therapy, right? Or for like
No, for real.
processing, because I
Please
think
do.
You're talking about some really important things here about our nervous system. We need a chance to go through the cycle. So we feel fear and we either run away or we fight. We do something kind of activity to try to protect ourselves. And if you're scrolling, you're constantly flooding without the opportunity to complete, it's called the stress response cycle.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no way to complete it. We're just staying in that stress mode. So talking to someone, even if you're writing it down, to cry, to punch a pillow, as long as you're not hurting yourself or anyone else, but to really give yourself an opportunity to complete the cycle versus continuing to just kind of live in the imagery that is just raising stress. And even though we can't change an oppressive society, we can't change racism, we can't change all of the things that are happening right now in this moment, if we're not taking care of ourselves, then we're adding more insults and heaviness to injury. It's really, we were talking last time just about like kind of, the teenagers going on social media. It's not necessarily contributing to high levels of anxiety or depression. There's no kind of causality there. At the same time, when we're looking at negative images that are causing more stress, I can see how scrolling over and over and over again is really going to just raise up the stress and keep you living in like that anxious mode without having a release. You're going to kind of stay up there. Does that make sense about
Absolutely
having a release and like just like living in that mode? Because I did this. I'll be honest. This was happening this weekend for me because of what just happened with the murder of Alex Preddy.
Mm-hmm.
And my husband's like, you got to turn the TV off.
Yeah.
Watch it. I was watching CNN because they had the videos of every single angle and they were showing it over and over and over again. I was looking at it on social media and the walkthrough. And then at one point, he came in. He's like, what are you doing? Turn that off now. And I really had to. I could feel the anxiety and the stress like in my body. And I had to do some things to take care of myself. Yeah. Kind of went off topic there.
No, but I
usually do.
Right, but I think that's so
we're
important.
Totally unscripted here all the time, so we never know where we're going to go.
Exactly, but I think you always bring us to an important place, and I think this is one, especially at this moment, but it is really connected to the idea of being able to detach and being able to separate. I had a similar experience, but from a totally different source. I hung out with my friends over the weekend, and one of them brought their kids. Whom I love her kids, but being out in a public place with young kids who are, very active and just the like parasympathetic, raised alert level, that
sympathetic.
Sympathetic. Yeah. Where you're just kind of I came home and I just put on, binaural beats or whatever and laid down in a dark room for like over an hour, like just to kind of like calm it down. Cause again, it wasn't like and the kids weren't bad, like nothing bad happened, but like I just knew my stress level was, really elevated because I was not used to being in that environment anymore. It's been a long time since that was my role.
Our kids are older now. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not, it's not about, you mentioned the word detachment, but what we're really talking about is like really good self-care.
Yeah.
And being able to, earlier too, we're talking about slowing it down and noticing what's happening. So you were able to slow it down enough to notice what impact it was having on you and then do something about it. I needed an outside force.
Yeah, you were
lucky
enough you had the outside force. Yeah.
Yeah. But then when he left, I'll tell a little bit on myself. Like a few hours later, I got the urge to put the TV back on, and I did. And I could feel the rising up of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, oh no, this is not what I want to do. And I turned it off. Because he cued me in, I noticed what was happening inside of me. And it felt so yucky. And I was like, do I really want to feel that like kind of yucky? And I think it's because I got an opportunity to complete that stress response cycle. I did some things for me with that energy so that when I stepped back in, I was like, I kind of completed that cycle. I was going to be starting it over again.
Yeah.
and I didn't want to do
And
that.
you
It's
you
like I
caught
saw
yourself,
enough,
yeah,
right?
heading in
Yeah.
that direction. Yeah.
Yeah. So, analog January is also could be an opportunity to learn more about your body and learn more about your nervous system and where you need to pause.
Yeah.
I think that that's an opportunity that's there. I don't think the article really talks necessarily about that particular piece. But if you raise more awareness into the what it is you're doing, and you're also doing other things, you're giving new input to your nervous system, you're teaching it other ways to be. You can compare.
Yeah.
This is how I feel this way. This is how I feel this way. And then you have more choice. So I think it's about creating more choice. And doesn't that feel good instead of that knee
Yeah.
jerk reaction of like picking up the phone on impulse and then 3 hours
Absolutely.
later finding yourself like still in the hole?
Right. Still in the hole, like in no better situation than you were before. Yeah. Just with like less time to do the things you actually want to do or need to do. For sure. I wonder, how do we talked about dry January. This is sort of another reset and reflection that obviously, it's the end of January, but no problem starting it now. Folks could try it for the month of February. But how
Yeah.
do you have any tips or suggestions for helping make these habits stick long term? Is it really in breaking it down to getting to that core thing? Like my goal is to slow down and notice more rather than
Yeah.
anything else, or I don't know.
Yeah, that's a great question. There's a few different layers in that. One is, and my brain is like going in a lot of different directions, and my cat decided he's going to join me.
He had some thoughts as well.
Yeah, is to really break down the what it is you want to change into the steps and the pieces that you need to do. Because if you try to do the really big thing in one fell swoop and in one chunk, you're setting yourself up to fail. And there's usually smaller steps along the way. So breaking down the what you want to change to the smallest steps
Yeah.
and doing them consistently and then building on, that's a far better way of changing a habit than to say you're going to do it all at once. If you want to go to the gym every day, first of all, that might be, you have to evaluate, is that a realistic goal? Smart
Right, is that a
goals.
small enough chunk to start with?
You want to do that kind of that smart, how it's measurable, it's attainable, it's realistic, it's time bound. Like when you're creating
Yeah.
goals, you want to do that anyway. But breaking it down, I mean, thinking of, I forgot the name of the author, the Atomic Habits.
Yeah,
That book.
and
And
Tiny
he really
Habits, I
talks
think, is
about,
another one of his too, yeah.
yeah, and he really talks about doing things to set yourself up for success. I think like one tip was like put out your workout clothes on the way to the bathroom, so you have to see them on the way to the bathroom, so you'll put them on. So it's kind of doing those things. But I think the other thing is a lot of people pick stopping. Well, they pick starting too, like I'm going to start going to the gym, but to have some replacement behaviors in there. So it's not all about doing that one thing or stopping that one thing, but adding maybe more variety into your life. That's what I liked about the article. They mentioned that too. To not just punish yourself, and that's a piece too, like punishing yourself to do the thing is not necessarily a really helpful way to make change either. But I really do think about like also not trying to change too many habits at the
Mhm.
same time. I think that's another place where people kind of go wrong. They try to do, I'm going to eat healthy, I'm going to exercise, and I'm going to read a novel a week or whatever.
Right.
And again, setting yourself up for failure,
And be a
really.
perfect mom and a perfect partner and a perfect employee and all of those other things too,
And the
right? The
list
list
goes
of
on.
things we just generally expect.
Right. And in that, you have to operationalize it. Like, what does it mean to be a good mom? I want to decrease the number of times a week I'm going to yell at my kids. Like this is a far more attainable goal than saying I'm going to be a good mom or I'm going to be a good partner.
Right.
So really, operationalizing what it is you mean
Yeah.
by this thing you want to change. So like even I want to change my relationship with digital media or, social media, doing something like I'm going to do dry January.
Yeah.
like Analogue January. What's interesting is it's not completely dry.
Right,
The
yeah.
focus is on changing your relationship, which I like a lot better. Anytime we're like, I'm never going to do this thing,
That feels really unsustainable from the beginning.
that feels unsustainable from the beginning. Yeah, absolutely. The other thing, and I get this question a lot, I don't know if you were thinking about this, Jackie, but how long does it take to change a habit?
I've heard the old wisdom of, isn't it 7 weeks or something like that?
21 days
21 days.
was,
Oh, gotcha.
but that's not
the old
true.
school. Yeah.
That came out of an article. I don't even know how they made this connection, but there was a study about people who were getting, I think, nose jobs or reconstructive surgery, and it was how long it took them when they looked in the mirror to feel comfortable, like that was their nose or that was their face, and it was 21 days. Somehow, some way, that got confabulated into
Then I should be able to
being
do anything in 21 days.
a habit, right? If I can get used to yeah, so it's a
What
kind
an
of an
odd
odd
jumping
thing.
off point. I love that you know that.
It's a really, I know odd things.
I love that. I love that.
That's the ethics background. Like, if you tell me something, I want to know how, where, why, how did you find that out? Who did they do that study on, and all that stuff. So it takes far longer than that. And I think the jury is really out on the exact day and time. I think it has a lot to do with who you are, what you're changing, and all the factors that kind of go into that. But I tell people that if they're trying something new, they really should give it at least 3 months
Yeah.
before they're really going to be able to get in the groove of it. My advice is always to do the things that are the hardest to do when it's the easiest to do.
100%.
Because that's the test of time. That's the test of whether or not it's going to work, and to practice it when it's easy. So, for example, I teach people breathing techniques to help them calm their nervous system, to calm down. And I tell them, don't do this when you're nervous the first time. I actually want you to do it for a couple weeks. Every time you feel calm and you remember, so that you can build the muscle memory, and then you have access to it. Because I found out early in my career, I give people tools to use when they were upset, and they'd say, that didn't work. Why didn't it work? I forgot to do it. I didn't know I had to do it.
I couldn't remember it when I was in a panic. Yeah.
Right. So, yeah.
And it really is amazing for anybody out there who isn't a believer, like the power of some just like a good deep belly breaths or other types of intentional breathing. If you can't think of what was that specific thing I learned, taking a few deep belly breaths and trying to like sort of like center yourself is a good jumping off point in my experience as someone who's struggled to like find places to make interventions and recognize that. And I think for me, one of the most important lessons I have learned here is, I think you called it out appropriately, to not, it's not that it's a bad thing. No, like it's not a punishment you're inflicting on yourself. You're not punishing yourself for doing something bad. It's really inviting that part in, recognizing that part like is there to serve you, but like just letting it know it doesn't need to do it right now is a really helpful part for, as well. Because I think it's easy to then, get in the habit of, punishing yourself into what you want as well, which winds up, not working long term either. Surprise.
Right. We can't beat ourselves up to like do the thing that we really want or need. That's not going to be helpful. We can't bully our nervous system into calming down,
Right.
Who
knew? Right.
I so appreciate that you shared, like, you use breathing. Like, it's something that, and I do too, like taking belly breaths. I mean, we both have nervous systems that are going to get dysregulated. And it's important to kind of learn some tools that are helpful. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. You
Absolutely.
do it too.
Yeah, no, and my daughter who's just got the puppy, she's in medical school, and that's one of the things she says to me on a regular basis. If you don't do anything else today, Mom, remember to take some deep breaths. I think, it's important to your, overall well-being to just have that capacity to do it. You don't have to do it, like, and it might not be the thing that 100% works for you, but it's a good thing to experience. It is what, sustains our life.
It is. Breath is life, and
Yeah.
intentional breath can be so meaningful in helping ourselves because it's something we have immediate access to that can actually regulate you with intention. The thought that I'm helping myself by doing this, you're
Yeah,
already helping yourself, right? Because you have the thought that I'm going to do something to help me today. All
absolutely.
right. That's awesome. Thank you for
Yes.
that reminder to breathe.
Just a little sprinkle on top of all the great advice that you had, Toni. I love it. I think this was a really helpful episode and a great jumping off point for folks to consider um evaluating this. A little bit of housekeeping news for the audience. We are setting up a new YouTube channel. So if you like to follow us on YouTube, is Therapy Tech and the word "and" spelled out, takeout, all mushed up together. You'll find that. We'll put a link in our old feed as well. But don't forget to like and subscribe and tell your friends. And we're excited, hopefully, to have some exciting new guests in the coming weeks too. So looking forward to that and having some more great conversations with you, Toni.
Thank you, Jackie. Looking forward to it.
Awesome. Take care,
Take care.
everybody. Bye bye.
Bye.